So I want to clarify a couple of things from the last couple of days, because when Jeff Darlington was on with us, I was saying to Darlington, we all know Calais Campbell. All of us know him. He is a gentle giant. And Darlington was quick in that moment to say, well, you don't know when all of that is coming towards you, a giant man. You don't know any of that. And so someone in a threatened situation might find that extra threatening, someone of that size. So I want to make the clarification from back there where I'm saying, well, I know this person. It's hard for me to imagine that person being the kind of enraged, since we've known him since college, that would be the kind of threatening that it might look like.
Originally, the cops did not know who Tyreek Hill was. There's no way they know who Calais Campbell or Jonnu Smith is.
Well, but Tyreek Hill might not look like a football player. There is no misunderstanding that Calais Campbell looks like someone who could play football. So Drew Rosenhaus is with us now, and it's been a long time since I've talked to Drew, and I saw him sweaty in the middle of the field. All of that looked uncomfortable, and also a position that Drew Rosenhaus has been in a few times in front of cameras. So he joins us now. And Drew, thank you for joining us. What can you tell us you know now that you didn't know when you were talking to the media right before the game?
Well, I admire what Tyreek is doing right now, guys. He's in the process of trying to organize a forum discussion with the chief of police of Miami-Dade, anyone else here in South Florida that wants to get involved. Tyreek has said to me, as traumatic as an event as this was, he wants to take this negative and try to turn it into a positive. We talked about all the things that athletes have tried to do over the years, like Colin Kaepernick and others, and to see this type of treatment continue to happen. He's going to take a different tact here and try to meet with some leaders to bring people together to follow the rules, the way that Tyreek said, the rule book, what police are trained to do. That wasn't the case on Sunday. So Tyreek is adamant about being an agent for change. And in talking to the Dolphins, the NFL, Troy Vincent, the senior vice president of the NFL, the Players Coalition, the NFLPA, everyone is behind Tyreek, and there's just a lot of momentum right now to turn this into an example of how we can take a negative and turn it into a positive.
You were careful in the moment not to make any allegations, and what you're saying is that going forward, none will be made because everyone here is trying to now de-escalate this and turn it into a teaching moment versus saying any one of the things that could be said here about a black man being handled poorly by police.
I think, number one, Dan, there's no question that Tyreek wants to improve relationships between the police and society, and to see this type of thing happening, in particular with black people and non-black or Latino or white police officers. This is not, unfortunately, something that is new, but he does want to be an agent of change. Now, that's not taking things off the table by looking to discipline the police officers that were involved here in violating Tyreek and the way that they treated him and Calais Campbell and Jonnu. And there may be litigation and a whole other slew of things. But for now, Tyreek is focused on trying to, rather than necessarily protest as much as try to work together with the police to get this on the right track moving forward. I was amazed after everything that those officers did to Tyreek. He went out of his way to try and shake their hand before he left the scene to go into the stadium. He literally said to them, I want to be a police officer one day. I respect law enforcement. This isn't how it should be done. let's be better. I was with him when he said those things. He showed a lot of poise, and I think he really wants to carry that message moving forward. But it was the reason I was sweating like that is I was running frantically around the stadium to get to him. My client, Jonnu Smith, called me and said, Drew, the cops are beating on Tyreek. They're choking him. They're kicking him. They've got him on the ground in handcuffs. I mean, you want to talk about anxiety, pain, frustration. It was a nightmare. And then all this video's out there. There's zero narrative about what happened to Tyreek. So I was hustling to talk to as many people as I could before the game to get the message out that Tyreek did nothing wrong. Calais Campbell did nothing wrong. And the police involved here were way out of hand.
Drew, does Tyreek have any regrets about the situation?
I have not. I can't speak for Tyreek, but from my perspective, I don't think he should. I don't believe when you look at the video, and I talked to Tyreek about this, that his conduct in any way merited any type of physical force to put him in handcuffs, to yank him out of the car. I mean, how about a little respect? Give him a ticket. If you thought it was a moving violation, give him the ticket. But handcuffs and, you know, the way they kicked him and hit him and the chokehold, that was mind-boggling. For him to have regrets, he's absolutely the last person that should be regretful. The police officers involved should regret this, and hopefully people are learning from this around the world on how to not be in law enforcement. That's a lesson on what not to do and how to treat people the wrong way.
Drew, how did we get to the handshakes? What stopped all of this from happening? What's happening in the middle here that we don't have access to that gets to the handshakes?
Well, to Tyreek's credit, I was with Tyreek, Drew Brooks, the Dolphins head of security, Brandon Shore, the Dolphins vice president, Tyreek's grandparents, Herman and Virginia Hill, were there. We, Tyreek just settled down and showed a lot of poise and maturity. It was his call to reach out to those officers to tell them to be better moving forward.
Drew, this could have been so much worse. Tyreek could have been injured and seriously injured. And unbelievably, he not only played but was the star of the game with that 80-yard touchdown catch. To make clear, might litigation still happen? Is that still on the table?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tyreek has his attorneys involved that are looking at this to see if that is appropriate. A lot of people have reached out to him indicating that this is something that potentially should merit litigation. That is something that will be determined in the future. But, Greg, I want to go back to your point. I literally just hung up the phone with Tyreek a few minutes ago, and he made the point that you did. It could have been so much worse. He said he could have been shot. He could have been killed. Thank God he didn't resist. Thank God he didn't fight back. Thank God he handled it with the maturity, asking for professionals to help him, and he kept his poise. But what if he didn't? This could have been absolutely disastrous when you see the way these officers were treating him.
Drew,
absolutely feared for his life.
What information do you have today that you didn't have when you were talking to the press? What have you since learned? When did you get access to the body cam video that confirmed or refuted any things that you thought before you saw it?
Well, I mean, when I got there, Tyreek was still in handcuffs, but it was after all this violent stuff. Otherwise, I probably would have been arrested as well, because I would have jumped into the fray here. This is just mind-boggling, just like Calais and Jonnu did. I got there at the tail end where he was still in handcuffs and went over, and the police were trying to push me away. What do I know now? Looking at all the body cam footage, it's absolutely sickening. And Tyreek himself didn't realize, even going through it, how terrible it was. He told me he just couldn't believe this is the kind of thing that you see happening to somebody else. And what if he wasn't Tyreek? What if his director of security, Drew Brooks, wasn't there? What if I wasn't there at the scene? Who knows what this could have turned into?
Like what? So what are you walking into, Drew? You've got all the police officers there. Your receiver, your client is still in handcuffs. This is before the handshakes, and his grandparents are there.
My brother Jason and my partner said to me, Drew, don't get arrested. He knew I was very emotional and I was extremely upset. But fortunately, by the time I got there, the officers had calmed down to the extent that Tyreek was with Drew Brooks. They just had let him out of handcuffs. Tyreek was very poised. But to say that everybody who cared about Tyreek was enraged and livid, including his grandparents, his pregnant wife, who was at the stadium. This was just absolutely. I've been an NFL agent, guys, for 37 years. I've never been involved with something like this. It's mind-boggling. A player is just trying to get to his home stadium to do his job. That's all he was trying to do. And that's basically what he said to the police when they ripped him out of the car. He was just trying to explain what he was doing and why he allegedly was in a hurry. He had a job to do, and he had a game to play. Mind-boggling. Tyreek and I were still talking this morning about how shocking this is, even 48 hours later.
You say no regrets. Was he driving too fast or recklessly?
Not that I'm aware of. He says he wasn't. It's kind of hard to do that in traffic. You look at where he got pulled over, but I wasn't an eyewitness to that. Quite frankly, we were just, relieved that after all of this, he got a speeding, basically a speeding ticket, a reckless driving ticket, and a ticket for driving without a seatbelt. We were concerned the police would try to keep him away or take him into custody. We were quite honestly very relieved, and we'll get that stuff taken care of. But obviously, if he was, that certainly did not merit that type of outrageous conduct. And I know that almost everybody agrees with this sentiment. Tyreek did nothing that deserved the beating that he got and the physical treatment, much less Calais and Jonnu on top of that.
Drew,
it's heartbreaking.
Drew, in the aftermath of this, when everything was settling down at the scene and you were perhaps in the company of the police officers, did you hear anything from them that sounded like apology or regret or we overreacted or we didn't know who it was, anything like that?
Greg, I can tell you that the Dolphin security, which is made up of either retired police officers or off-duty police officers, were just appalled by the way Tyreek was treated. I was at Monday Night Football last night in San Francisco, and I can't tell you how many of the police officers there came up to me and said, hey, this isn't how we do things. This is not something we're proud of. This is not the norm. These guys were way out of line. But none of the police officers involved there showed any remorse or were apologetic. But our goal is to make sure that they are in the near future, that they are disciplined. For the people, the police officers there that kicked him, that put him in a chokehold, that ripped him out of the car, that threw him on the ground, that put their knee on him. We want those officers to be disciplined and to make sure that they never do that again to anybody else who doesn't actually deserve that type of treatment.
What is the discipline you want?
For me personally, I think that police officers that did that to Tyreek shouldn't be in that position. They should be let go. Look at the guy that just kicked him right there. That guy should be fired. That's out of control. The guy that jumped in, put him in a chokehold. There's no place for a police officer to have a badge that operates like that when Tyreek wasn't being aggressive or violent or fighting back in any capacity. That was horrendous how they treated him. They didn't treat him like a human being. There's no place for police officers to be on the force.
Drew, I agree with that. Does Tyreek agree with you, though?
I of course.
He wants them fired. He thinks they should be fired?
Well, I'll let Tyreek speak to that. That's my opinion. He and I have not had that specific discussion, but certainly I would recommend to Tyreek and the legal team that that's something that we pursue. I think he deserves an apology from each and every one of those police officers involved, and the ones that abuse their authority and power should not be on the force, in my opinion, moving forward.
What do you say to anyone who says that Tyreek Hill has to initially be more submissive in that spot and just simply follow orders regarding his window?
Based upon my discussions with Tyreek and the video and everything that I've seen, that's very clear that Tyreek was submissive, that he was cooperating, and to the extent that the police officers didn't feel that his conduct by no means warranted the extreme reaction that they did. I mean, his conversation there. What do I have to do? Give me a ticket. I mean, he's a human being. He has the right to have these discussions. And, to me, again, Tyreek is human. You don't have to be perfect when you're dealing with the police to not get arrested. I mean, at the end of the day, they yank him out of the car. It's absolutely, he's got rights. He's trying to get a hold of the team security director, myself, and look at this. They yank him out of the car, throw him down. I mean, for what? Have a little bit of patience. What does it take? A minute or two to communicate? He's obviously not a threat. There's no instance. You got to put your knee on his hand right there. Tyreek's been dealing with a wrist injury, a sore knee. This guy right there, that's just unnecessary. He's not fighting back. And then they harassed him. They called him a crybaby. Look at Tyreek. He just said, I had surgery on my knee. He had a procedure. He had some injections this offseason, PRP, and this is how they treat a guy? I mean, what if it wasn't a world-class athlete? And here's my client. He's on the phone with me. They're beating on Tyreek. I'm on the other line there, and they're about to arrest him. I mean, that's absolutely, have a little bit of awareness. These are Dolphin players that are trying to do their job. We're at the stadium. You're a police officer. John Who's trying to calm the situation down, and so is Calais. You don't have the poise as a police officer to recognize that it's Tyreek Hill and Calais Campbell. How about a little bit of communication? What happened? We can't just talk things out. You got to suddenly throw a black athlete or a black person in a nice car. You got to throw him to the ground and beat on him? That's absurd.
Drew, you know South Florida, you know Miami. They want the answer to one question. Is the U back?
The answer is yes. Absolutely. They are loaded. This is a talented football team, and they're going to have a great season.
All right.
Drew, good seeing you under weird circumstances. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the time. I know you're very busy right now.
Take care, guys.
Thank you, Drew.